The good life is a process, not a way of mind or not a state of being. It is a direction and not a destination. This quote from Carl Rogers sums up the way that I have began to view my salvation experience. You see, I've not always been this close to God. I've not always been this secure in my faith. And even today, there are times in my life where I still struggle. I still continue with trying to learn my place in God's kingdom and try to understand my salvation experience. But I understand that there are things in my life that I have grown to accept. And for that, I thank God. I was saved when I was 15 years old, but I lacked that discipleship training that I needed to be grounded in the faith. I began to struggle with my salvation and struggle with things such as self-fulfillment issues and even my calling into the ministry. I began to struggle with that, doubting whether God really called me to ministry or not. It wasn't until a couple of years ago when I was asked to be a teacher's aide to a child with autism that I truly understood God's calling for my life. I began to see certain aspects of his life that really made me think twice about my life. I understood that the joy is in the journey, not in the destination. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I was saved when I was 15 years old. You see, I loved going to church when I was a kid at Calvary Baptist Church in Henderson because of all the fun things that they had to offer. A lot of the activities, a lot of the games, and I had a lot of friends there that was with me. But the youth pastor invited me to a concert at Dallas at one time, and of course concerts are always something I like going to. So I accepted, and we loaded up on the church van and went to see Al Denson in concert. And at the end of the concert, Al Denson led this great invitation. And it was there, at that night in my seat, that I accepted Christ as my personal Savior. And my life was never the same. Salvation was free, but in reality, it came with a price. The cost of discipleship. I was to be completely devoted to God. The cost of discipleship was not something that I wanted to think about, and frankly, I didn't care. As I got into church, I began to see the way Christians truly acted sometimes, and I didn't want to be like them. But in reality, I was like them. I was a hypocrite, someone who claimed to know Christ, but their lifestyle didn't match the way that I spoke. And so I began to go back to my old ways. Slowly but surely, I began to allow my friends to dictate my actions, to take me to places that were undesirable, to take me to places that were not conducive as a Christian. Isn't it ironic? The more you try to live for Christ, the more Satan intervenes and tries to trip you up. He causes you to doubt your goodness in God, whether you're worth anything or not. And so I spent the next 15 years doubting that salvation, doubting and struggling. But how is it that a child with autism would completely change the way that I thought about myself and I thought about my salvation? As I also said earlier, that I accepted a job offer as a teacher's aide to help this autistic child. He was 15 years old, and he needed a male role model in his life. And so I accepted that. And for the next couple of years, I began to observe him and see kind of his characteristics. I noticed two outstanding characteristics in his life. One, innocence, and two, his total devotion to his parents. And it was then that I realized what God had done for me 15 years earlier. You see, this child with autism was that perfect example of what I should be to God. Totally innocent in my actions and completely devoted to Him as a father. And because of that, I began to explore God more, and I began to understand what He wanted for my life. And it was almost like I was reborn again. Even though that I had accepted that salvation so many years ago, I was redevoted, and I had almost a renewed heart and a renewed mind. So there you have it. My life in a nutshell. Or should I say, my crazy life among the most amazing people that I have ever met. God brought me from humble beginnings to a doubtful life, to a life that is now being used by Him and through me to reach so many children in the area that I'm living in now. You see, He took me from being a broken and unusable clay pot to a valuable vessel that He can use today. And even though I know that I struggle in my life, I know that one day when I reach those heaven's gates, that He's going to say to me, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." So thank you for listening. God bless you.